Sir, this lounge is for actual VIPs, not old soldiers in surplus jackets. That's what the hostess hissed right before she snapped her fingers at security. He didn't speak, didn't argue. He just stood up calmly, walked out, and waited under the rain. 5 minutes later, the silence shattered. 3 black SUVs skidded to a stop outside. A 4-star general stepped out, saluted the empty chair, and growled, "Where's the man you just threw out?" The next word, "You just lost your jobs. If you believe rank is lived, not worn." Comment, respect the silent below. Retired Command Sergeant Major Thomas Briggs, 76, had seen more than his fair share of war zones, but never expected to be humiliated at home. He received an invitation to a veteran appreciation gala, hosted at an upscale city hotel. His attire, clean boots, pressed khakis, and a faded army jacket. Entering the VIP lounge, he offered a polite nod. A young hostess eyed him from head to toe, then said, "Sir, this section is for invited VIP guests. Please wait in the lobby." Thomas showed her the invitation signed by the event director. She scoffed. It must have been a clerical error. She motioned for security. "Escort him out." Thomas didn't resist. He simply stepped out, rain falling on his shoulders. He waited at the hotel entrance for no one in particular, just waiting. But a bellhop who had served in Afghanistan noticed. He made a quick phone call, short, urgent, and with just one name. Inside, Thomas's absence went unnoticed amid champagne flutes and practiced smiles. The hostess had already forgotten him, now focused on welcoming celebrities wearing designer suits and flag pins. The bellhop approached cautiously. "Sir, were you in Kandahar 2010? Thomas nodded once. "I thought so. You pulled my buddy Martinez from that collapsed building during the offensive." Thomas said nothing. Some actions need no acknowledgement. The young man stepped away, phone already at his ear. 3 words spoken urgently. "He's here, sir." Thomas remained still, raindrops darkening his jacket. Decades of military service had taught him patience under far worse conditions than a rainy sidewalk and wounded pride. Inside, the gala organizer tapped her glass, beginning remarks about honoring those who served, while actual service stood outside, unwelcome. An elderly couple exited the hotel, noticing Thomas's military bearing despite his civilian clothes. The husband, wearing a Vietnam veteran cap, stopped. "They won't let you in either." Thomas shook his head. "Wrong attire apparently." "Shameful," the man replied. "Who'd you serve with?" 75th, Rangers then. "Special Forces Command, Sergeant Major." The man's eyebrows rose. He offered a respectful nod. "Sir, would you like us to speak with management?" "No need to make trouble," Thomas replied. "I've waited in worse places." The couple reluctantly continued on, glancing back with concern. Thomas checked his watch. The invitation said speeches would begin at 7. He'd promised himself he would attend, representing friends who couldn't, men who never came home. He would keep that promise, even if it meant standing in the rain until the main doors opened. His dignity remained intact, his promise unbroken, his patience unshaken. After all, what was a little rain compared to what he'd endured? What was a social slight compared to brothers lost? What was a momentary embarrassment compared to the lifetime of silence carried by men who'd seen too much? He waited still as a monument, while inside people who knew nothing of service celebrated it with expensive wine. Inside, executives and donors toasted champagne, praising support for veterans. No one noticed the veteran who had been turned away, until 3 black SUVs arrived and parked diagonally across the hotel front. Hotel staff panicked. Was there a bomb threat? A protest? Then a 4-star general stepped out, dressed uniform impeccable, face stone cold. "Where is Sergeant Major Briggs?" The hostess stammered. "I asked him to leave." "You asked a Medal of Honor recipient to leave?" "I didn't know exactly." The general growled. "You didn't ask. You assumed." The general entered the lounge, guest now falling silent. "I came here tonight because he was attending. I'm not staying if he's not." He pulled out his phone. "Cancel the funding. We're relocating the gala." The hotel manager tried to explain. "We had no idea." "Then you have no business hosting men like him." The general turned to the staff. "You're dismissed." The room fell silent. Eyes darted between the general and the hostess, whose face had drained to alabaster. "General Lawson, please." The event coordinator intervened. "This is a misunderstanding, is it?" The general's voice cut through the room like a blade. "Command Sergeant Major Briggs has 3 Purple Hearts, a Silver Star, and the Medal of Honor. He saved 26 men in Fallujah when everyone else had given up. You couldn't recognize the caliber of man standing before you because he wasn't wearing an expensive suit." The hostess's hands trembled. "He didn't say anything about medals." "That's exactly the point," the general interrupted. "Men like him never do. Hotel security approached cautiously. Sir, perhaps you can find Sergeant Major Briggs and bring him back with the respect he deserves now. The corporate sponsors shifted uncomfortably. Phones disappeared into pockets. The photographer stopped taking pictures. The hotel manager rushed toward the entrance while the general continued addressing the room. Ladies and gentlemen, I suggest you consider what this event is supposedly about. It's not about photo opportunities or tax write-offs. It's about men and women who gave everything asked of them, and then gave more. He scanned the room, eyes connecting with each person. How many of you have served? A scattered handful of hands rose tentatively. And how many of you would recognize the quiet signs of service if they weren't announced with uniforms and decorations? No hands rose outside. Thomas still waited patiently when the hollow manager burst through the doors breathless. Sergeant Major Briggs, please, you must come back inside. General Lawson is asking for you. Thomas's expression remained unchanged. I don't want to cause trouble. Sir, with all due respect, trouble has already arrived. The general is threatening to withdraw all military funding from our event, unless you're treated as the honored guest you are. Thomas considered this, then nodded once. He followed the manager inside, walking with the same quiet dignity he'd shown when leaving. As they approached the VIP lounge, whispers rippled ahead of them. Phones emerged again, this time recording. The crowd parted like a sea. General Lawson turned, spotting Thomas. Without hesitation, he strode forward and rendered a perfect salute. Commander Sergeant Major Briggs, I apologize for my late arrival, sir. Thomas returned the salute with precision. No apology necessary, General. The general's eyes narrowed, noting Thomas's damp clothes. Were you waiting outside? There was a misunderstanding about my invitation, Thomas replied simply. The general's jaw tightened. He turned to face the room. This man saved my life in Fallujah. When our unit was pinned down and command ordered a retreat, he went back. Not once, 6 times alone. The silence deepened. I don't care who your celebrities are or how much your donors contribute. I'm here because he's here. And if he's not welcome, neither am I. The hostess stepped forward, face flushed. Sir, I apologize. I had no idea who. That's the problem. The general cut her off. You shouldn't need to know who someone is to treat them with dignity. The same dignity they fought to protect for you. He turned back to Thomas. What would you like to do, sir? We can relocate this entire event. My staff is already making calls. Thomas looked around the room, absorbing the stunned faces, the embarrassment, the sudden recognition. No need, he said quietly. I came to represent those who couldn't be here. That's still my mission. The general nodded. Then we carry on, but with the proper respect. He addressed the hostess and security guard. As for you to update your resumes, you're dismissed. Thomas stood at the entrance of the lounge, still damp from the rain, expression unchanged, neither smug nor vengeful, just present, observing with the same careful attention that had kept men alive in combat. General Lawson approached him, stood at attention, and formally saluted again. Permission to walk beside you tonight, sir. Always granted, Thomas replied softly, the first time many in the room had heard his voice. Deep, measured, caring, natural authority. Together, they made their way through the hotel lobby toward the main ballroom. Now walking side by side as equals, security personnel from the SUVs formed a loose perimeter around them. Unnecessary but symbolic. Phones came out, social media algorithms activated, whispers rippled through the crowd. Is that really him? The Kandahar hero, the one who inside the grand ballroom. The evening's presentation was already underway. On the massive screen behind the stage, a photograph appeared. A younger Thomas Briggs in combat gear carrying an injured soldier through smoke and debris during the Fallujah operations that saved 36 American lives. The MZ who had been introducing corporate sponsors stopped mid-sentence. His expression shifted from confusion to recognition to shame in seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, he stammered, please welcome our true guest of honor, Command Sergeant Major Thomas Briggs. The spotlight swung wildly until it found Thomas entering alongside the general. Confused applause turned genuine as recognition spread. The MC offered the microphone with trembling hands. Thomas accepted it, holding it with the same careful precision he once held wounded comrade. I didn't come here to be honored, he said, his voice filling the room without raising it. I came because someone asked me to represent those who couldn't be here. He paused, eyes scanning the room, seeing both the interested and the uncomfortable. There are veterans sleeping under bridges tonight who showed more courage before breakfast than many show in a lifetime. They don't need your pity, they need your respect, even when they're not wearing a uniform that impresses you. He turned to General Lawson. Thank you, sir, for seeing me when others couldn't. But this isn't about me. He handed the microphone back and stepped away from the spotlight. uncomfortable with attention, but unwilling to waste the teachable moment. The room stood in stunned silence. Then applause thundered, building from scattered clapping to a standing ovation that lasted nearly 5 minutes. The hotel's executive director took the stage next, face flushed with embarrassment and determination. Commander Sergeant Major Briggs, on behalf of the entire Westlake organization, I offer our deepest apologies. What happened tonight represents a failure that goes beyond our staff to our culture. Starting tomorrow, we're implementing changes. Thomas nodded once, acceptance without eagerness. Vanessa Mills, the event director, approached him privately during dinner. I should have personally greeted every veteran, she admitted. Not just the ones in uniform or with obvious medals. Most who deserve recognition don't ask for it, Thomas replied. By evening's end, his simple jacket had become the most respected attire in the room. Former strangers now approached with genuine questions about his service, listening intently to his measured answers. The general shared a final moment with him. As the gala concluded, they needed this lesson. Ray, maybe we all do, Thomas answered, myself included. When it was time to leave, a line of hotel staff stood at attention near the exit, not by command, but by choice. The bellhop who had made the call stood among them, eyes bright with pride. The rain had stopped. Thomas paused at the hotel entrance, looking up at the clearing sky. Will you be coming to next year's event? The general asked. If they invite the right people, Thomas replied. Not just me. I'll make sure of it personally. As they walked toward the waiting vehicles, Thomas noticed the hostess and security guard being escorted from the building, belongings in boxes. He took a detour. Excuse me, and he said quietly. They turned, faces fallen. Everyone deserves a second chance, Thomas said. Just like I got in Fallujah when they told me to leave those men behind. He reached into his pocket and handed them each a business card. My friend runs a veteran support center. They need staff who've learned about respect the hard way. Tell them I sent you. Their expressions shifted from shame to disbelief to gratitude. As Thomas walked away, the general chuckled. Still saving people, aren't you? Old habits, Thomas replied simply. The hotel issued a public apology, fired the event manager, donated $5,000 to veteran housing. Thomas didn't gloat. Fix the system, he said. Don't fix it for me. A viral clip of the general's salute hit 9 million views in a week. A new initiative, Stand First, Judge Last, began training frontline staff at major hotels and venues. Thomas returned to his quiet life, but now wherever he went, someone always stood. Not because he demanded it, but because now the world finally saw him. The Westlake Hotel Group implemented a company-wide training program focused on recognizing and respecting veterans regardless of their appearance or attire. Their CEO personally reached out to veterans organizations, seeking guidance on meaningful support beyond photo opportunities. 3 months later, Thomas received another invitation, this time hand-delivered by the hotel's new director of veteran relations, a retired Marine who understood service beyond uniforms. We're doing something different, she explained. Not speeches in champagne, job fairs, housing assistance, healthcare resources. Would you help us get it right? Thomas agreed, but with one condition. Invite the veterans no one sees, the ones sleeping rough, the ones struggling with invisible wounds. They need this more than I do. The event, now called Service Beyond Uniform, became an annual tradition that spread to hotels nationwide. No VIP lounges, no dress codes, just genuine support and recognition. 6 months after the incident, the former hostess and security guard completed their training at the Veterans Center. They now lead workshops on recognizing service beyond appearances. Thomas keeps their thank you notes in the same drawers as medals. To him, both represent the same thing of redemption after failure, and the chance to stand up again with newfound wisdom. When asked about that rainy night, Thomas simply says, sometimes we need to be seen, sometimes we need to see others. Both require looking beyond the surface. Subscribe to Steelheart Stories if you believe silence can be louder than medals.